Okay, dear students, back to our class. Our today's topic is artificial hybridization. Artificial hybridization. Process of depositing desired pollen grains on the stigmatic surface to produce an improved variety of crop. I repeat, this is the process of deposition of good variety pollens on stigmatic surface. Why? To yield good crop variety. Basically, this step is just an artificial way of, like, remember we have discussed about the outbreeding devices in plant. The same thing, that's a natural way. This is an artificial method in which the scientist is deliberately attempting to produce a to promote a cross pollination, they are trying to prevent self pollination. They are trying to promote for a cross pollination, because why? They need a variation. They want to produce a good variety crop. For that, we'll see what all steps we need to perform. For that, we have to make sure that our stigmatic surface, the stigmatic surface of the plant, should be free from any unwanted pollen grains. We need to deposit our own pollen grains on that stigmatic surface. We need to produce our own variety, so that we need to make sure that the stigma is free from any other contaminants. The first step of artificial hybridization is emasculation. Consider it's a bisexual flower. The first step is emasculation. Emasculation means the process of removal of anther. Emasculation is the process of removal of anther. Second step. So we have removed the male part from it. Our second step is bagging. B-A-G-G-I-N-G. Bagging. B-A-G-G-I-N-G. Bagging. Bagging, it is the process to mask the flower. It's a process to mask. It is a process to hide the flower using butter paper or any other envelope. So using any other envelope, you need to just imagine that's your flower. That's a flower. You just need to mask that flower. That's the second step. We call it as bagging. So the third step is dusting. So so far we have done emasculation. You have removed the anther part. You have done the bagging. You have covered the stigmatic surface, or you have covered the entire flower. Third step is dusting. So once the female or stigmatic surface becomes receptive, becomes mature, the third step is dusting. You need to deposit pollens on stigmatic surface. You have to deposit pollens on the stigmatic surface. That's the third step of dusting. Once we done all these three steps, the next step is again do the second step. That means do the rebagging. Why rebagging again? Is just to prevent the unwanted pollens. Just the way you have done the bagging. What's the bagging objective? To prevent contamination, to prevent the deposition of unwanted pollen grains. The same way, after the dusting process, you have to do rebagging. After rebagging, what happens normally? A flower will be ripened. After fertilization, the flower will ripen, or the seed will be produced, or the fruit will be produced. So to sum up, artificial hybridization, it is just an artificial method of outbreeding devices in plant. Here we scientists are doing this technique. First step was emasculation, removal of anther part. Second one was the bagging technique. It is the process by which you hide the stigmatic surface to prevent unwanted pollen grains landing on it. Third one was dusting. It is the method of dusting the good trait pollen grains on the stigmatic surface. Next step is rebagging, and of course allowing them for the seed or the fruit development. That's the method we call them as artificial hybridization. But this is the one we discuss about bisexual flower. If it's a unisexual flower, nothing to be changed. Just remove the first step. Emasculation no need to be done. The remaining steps all are important. Okay, now students will go out, will go for the same artificial hybridization technique. We'll see how we can demonstrate in a bisexual flower. So here we are about to demonstrate the artificial hybridization. For that we require a bisexual flower. Most common bisexual flower, of course, we know that's a shoe flower or hibiscus plant, and we have to spot it, and I spotted a hibiscus flower at my neighborhood. So let's move there, students. So now we are able to demonstrate artificial hybridization. For that we have to select a good bisexual flower. So here comes a bisexual flower. That's a shoe flower, or we call it as hibiscus flower. Okay, for doing that we require some materials to be taken with this. That since we don't have forceps, we have a nail cutter, I have a butter paper or an envelope, and I have few rubber bands with me. Step, like I told you, the first step is emasculation. Emasculation, the process of removing the male part. So let's remove the male part now. Okay. So that's emasculation. We are removing the male part. These things are okay. This is how an emasculated flower looks like. We have removed all the male part from the flower, and the next step is the bagging technique. During the technique of bagging, we just cover the flower, entire flower, using a butter paper or an envelope. See, this is a bagged flower. We have covered the entire flower with a butter paper or an envelope. So third step is dusting. Here in this step we will just deposit the pollen grains of the good variety to stigmatic surface. Okay. After dusting is done, we have to rebag it. Okay, now that we have done the rebagging step, so all the steps have been completed. Now we have to wait for the flower development. Only a better variety of the plant will be produced by this process called artificial hybridization. Back to our class. So far we have discussed about the pre-fertilization events, fertilization events, all we have done. Now we have to move to your last and final topic, that's the post fertilization events, the events that occur after fertilization. The first one is endosperm or endosperm formation. What's an endosperm? Endosperm, it is a mass of tissue seen inside the seed. Function is to provide nourishment for the embryo. It is a mass of tissue seen inside the seed. Its function is to nourish embryo. Now we'll see how the endosperms are produced. For that, you'll just recall the triple fusion. Triple fusion. Remember what's triple fusion? Two central cell plus one male gamete. Two central cell in the embryo sac. Remember, embryo sac plus the male gamete, they fuse to produce 3N structure. 3N. Remember, it was the primary endosperm nucleus. We call them as a primary endosperm nucleus, or in short we call it as PEN. We call it as PEN. P-E-N. PEN. Now we see how these endosperms are produced. So PEN is formed now. How the PEN is formed? By triple fusion. PEN is formed. Now the PEN undergoes mitotic division. Successive mitotic division to produce free endosperm nucleus. We call it as free endosperm nucleus. F-E-N. Free endosperm nucleus. This free endosperm nucleus again undergoes mitotic division and forms an organized structure. We call them as free endosperm cells. Free endosperm cells. Later they are matured to form endosperm tissue, and later they forms the endosperm. Later they forms the endosperms. All these endosperms are produced before the zygote formation. Why? Question may ask, why endosperms are produced first than before zygote formation? Because why? To assure the nutrition for the zygote. So the question was, why the endosperms are produced before zygote formation. Endosperms need to be produced before zygote formation to ensure the nutrition. So endosperm function, nourishment of the embryo. Fen to fen. Fen stands for free endosperm nucleus. Free endosperm nucleus, it will be usually, when you take the case of a coconut, it will be liquid in nature. It will be watery, liquid in nature. Free endosperm nucleus will be developed into free endosperm cells, cells to form tissue, tissue to form endosperm structure. For instance, take an example of a seed, a monocot seed, a coconut seed. When you open it, you can see the whitish part here. That whitish part we call them as the endosperms. And you can see the watery ones. You can see inside the watery ones. These watery ones we call it as the free endosperm nucleus. So this free endosperm nucleus, they develop to form these endosperms or endosperm tissues. And these free endosperm nucleus and these endosperm tissues will help in developing the embryo. So our next concept is embryo. Embryo or embryo development. Embryo development we call it as embryogenesis. Embryogenesis is the formation of embryo from the zygote. We call them as embryogenesis. It is same for both, almost same for both monocot and dicot. We'll see that the first one, the product of fertilization, we call them as the zygote, right? It's the first cell formed after fertilization, the unicell, we call them as zygote. It all starts from the zygote. The zygote give rise to a structure, we call them as the proembryo. Proembryo is a multi-cell structure or a di-cell structure. It consists of two nucleus because the zygote will undergo first cleavage, first division to produce two cell structure. We call them as proembryo. Pro means an immature embryo. Again, from proembryo it forms a structure. We call it as a globular structure. We call it as globular. Globe like globe, globular. From the globular, it attains a heart-shaped structure. Globular to heart-shaped structure. That's a heart-shaped structure. Again, so heart-shaped structure of the embryo, and finally it is developed into a mature embryo. Much more developed embryo, that's the mature embryo. This is the heart-shaped one. Heart-shaped, and that's the mature embryo. First one we are going to discuss about the dicot embryo. See, in this structure you can see two wings, wing-like structure, just like a butterfly. You can see them. The centermost elongated structure we call it as the embryo. And the two wing-like structure you can see on the either side of the embryo, we call it as cotyledons. Embryo and the cotyledons, right? And you can see the embryo is having two poles, two ends. You can see top and the bottom. The top end we call it as plumule. Plumule, plumule. And the bottom end we all studied in the +1. Remember? Yeah, the same concept. The bottom one we call it as radicle. So cotyledons, two cotyledons, one embryo having two poles. Top pole we call them as plumule. You know, plumule give rise to shoot system. And the bottom we call them as radicle, and radicle give rise to the root system. And there's an imaginary line here that we call them as the embryonal axis. Embryonal axis, it is a region of the embryo on which this cotyledons attach. Region on the embryo on which the cotyledons attach or bind, we call them as embryonal axis. So the region between embryonal axis to the radicle. Embryonal axis to the radicle. This region we call it as hypocotyle. Hypocotyle. Hypo means below. Below what? Cotyle. Cotyle means cotyledons. Hypocotyle. This region, hypocotyle. Embryonal axis to the radicle, we call them as hypocotyle. On the other hand, hypocotyle to plumule. This top region, we call it as epicotyle. EPICOTYL. Epicotyle. So epicotyle is the top region, hypocotyle is the bottom region. We'll see the structure of monocot embryo. That's a simple structure of monocot embryo. There's an embryonal region, and this structure is the cotyledon. Only one cotyledon, they are monocot. So we call them as scutellum. Spelling SCUTELLE. Cotyledon, we call it as scutellum. They are monocot. So scutellum is the cotyledons of the monocot, and that's the embryo region. Of course, you can see plumule here, and you can see the radicle here. Plumule is again covered with a sheath of cell. We call it as coleoptile. 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 And of course, the radicle is covered by a sheath. We call them as coleorhiza. RHIZA. Coleorhiza. Coleorhiza. Okay. So that's the structure of a monocot embryo. Yeah. So the third concept for us is seed. Seed is said to be the final product of fertilization, or the final product of sexual reproduction. It is the final product of sexual reproduction. Or you can say seed is the fertilized or matured ovule. It is the matured ovule. Now we will see what seed contains. What all things seed contains? Seed contains first one, seed coats. Seed coat. The hard shell, they have seed coats. Second one, there's a embryo. Next one is the cotyledons. And the last one, we call them, that's the endosperm. So a dicot seed looks like this. A seed coat. There's an embryo with a dicot, and that's the endosperms. Right. A monocot seed may look like this. Seed coat. That's the embryo, that's the scutellum, and that's the endosperm. Seed coat, endosperm, scutellum, and the embryo. Dicot seed and a monocot seed. And you may know it. Seed coat's function, it also helps in the dormancy of the seed. It also helps to prevent the seed from any kind of an external harmful condition. Many times questions have asked about the advantages of the seed. So I have listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 advantages is been listed. We'll go one by one. First advantage, more dependable. That means seeds are more dependable. Is that seed production is more dependable, because before the seeds are being produced, pollination and fertilization is the key events, and these two key events can even happen in the absence of water use. So as far as the plant is concerned, seed must be happening. Seeds production is more and more dependable. You can trust on the seed production. Second one, they are dispersed to new areas. You know that seed dispersal, you might have studied in the smaller classes about seed dispersal. What's function of seed dispersal? What's the advantage of seed dispersal? Seed dispersal will help in dispersing the seed to wider areas, so that the same plant can be seen in different variety of areas, right? So that there won't be any kind of competition between the same plant species. To prevent competition, the seeds are being dispersed to different parts of the area. So that's second advantage, dispersed to new area. And third one, we call them as food reserves. Of course, seed contains plenty of food reserves, namely cotyledons, endosperm. So it helps in, seed helps in the providing nutrition for the developing embryo. D, next one is variation. Of course, seed is a result of sexual reproduction. It brings about variation to the new organism. And the last is protection. Of course, like I told you, seed coat has different protections, like a plant hormone called abscisic acid are seen inside the seed coat. It helps in the seed dormant. Fruits. What's fruit? Fruit is the fertilized, or sorry, is a mature. So mature ovary. Fruit is a mature ovary. It is also called as pericarp. And we know pericarp is also having three regions. Remember, endocarp, mesocarp and the epicarp, right? Mesocarp is the edible region. Of course, you know that all these regions we have that. We call them as fruit is also called as pericarp, or simply we call them as carp. Fruit is of two types, in fact three types. First one we call them as the true fruit, or we call them as the eucarp. Hope you know that. I'm not going to explain about the true fruit. Of course, we know that, right? What's true fruit? True fruits are those fruits which are developed from the ovary. If ovary develops to produce fruit, mature to produce fruit, we call them as true fruit. Example, what will be the fruits you know around? Well, like watermelon, papaya. What will be the fruit? We call them as true fruits, or we call it as eucarp. True fruit, eucarp. Second one, we call them as a false fruit. What's false fruit? False fruit are those fruits which are developed from region other than the ovary. False fruits are those fruits which are developed from a region other than the ovary. We call it as a false fruit, or we call them as pseudocarp. Pseudocarp. Examples, you know, apple and strawberry. Apple and strawberry are examples of pseudocarp. And third one, we call them as parthenocarpic fruits. Parthenocarpic. What's parthenocarpic? You might have heard of parthenogenesis. Right, the same concept here. Parthenogenesis is asexual reproduction. What's parthenogenesis? Formation of young one without the involvement of male gamete. Like that here, parthenocarpic fruit are those fruits which are developed without fertilization. So parthenocarpic fruits are those fruits which are developed in the absence of fertilization. That means that fruit is formed as a result of asexual reproduction. Example, banana. It's an example for a parthenocarpic fruit. So our chapter is almost over. We just finished our post-fertilization events also we have discussed. We discussed about the main events like embryo formation, endosperm formation, seed formation, fruit formation. That's it. Now, before winding up, we need to add two more concepts. One is apomixis. Apomixis. The word apo means without. Mixis. The word mixis means fertilization. So almost you might have got the meaning of it. Apomixis is a kind of asexual reproduction. Apomixis, technically we say that it is a formation of a seed without fertilization. So seed formation without fertilization. Seed formation without fertilization. Without fertilization we call it as apomixis. Now, who produces apomixis? For example, you can see mangosteen, a fruit called mangosteen. You might have eaten like this, mangosteen, the velvet colored fruit. And of course, we say in Malayalam, jamanthi, are all produces which one? Apomixis seed. So apomixis seed, what's the advantage? It's a seed that is produced as a result of asexual reproduction. Now think how it can be produced. Now there are two ways of producing. A plant can produce apomixed seed by two methods. First one from diploid egg. First one from a diploid egg. So diploid egg, that feels some confusing, right? How a diploid egg is produced? During, if any errors are happening, sometimes meiosis won't happen, won't trigger properly. So what happens? Seeds are produced. Diploid seeds are produced. That means there is no chance of fertilization. So diploid eggs are produced, and that diploid egg, if they produces embryo or a seed, we call them, that's the case of apomixis. So first way is from diploid egg, and second one is from nucellus. Remember nucellus? Nucellus are the sporogenous tissue seen inside the embryo sac, right? Now we can state, we can report an advantage of the apomixis seed, apomictic seed. Since I told you apomictic is produced as a result of asexual reproduction, no variation. Okay, please keep in mind, asexual reproduction, no variation. So farmers are trying to produce apomictic seed from a hybrid variety of seed. So imagine there's a plant called X, and that plant is having there's a hybrid plant. If that hybrid plant, of course they'll be producing seed after fertilization. They produce a seed. So farmers are trying to make this seed, this hybrid seed, as an apomictic seed. Why? Because so that if you are sowing this seed the next year of cultivation, you can grow plenty of same crop next year. Next year also you can get the same hybrid plant. Because if this hybrid plant is going for a sexual reproduction, what can happen? It can bring about variation. So the farmers does not want variation anymore. They are happy with this product. So they are trying to make hybrid seed, so for apomictic seed of the hybrid plant, so that there won't be any variation. But if you are allowing this plant to go for a sexual reproduction, what can happen? It can bring about variation. But farmers does not want any variation. They want the same seed as such. So the farmers and all the scientists around the world is trying to make an apomictic seed produced from a hybrid plant. That's an advantage of it. Let's move to the last and final topic of this chapter. We call them as polyembryony. Polyembryony. What could be that? Polyembryony. Yeah, it's simple. It's a formation of multiple embryo inside the same seed. We know that from one seed only one embryos are produced, but in some cases from a single seed you can see more than one embryo. The most classical example you might have seen in oranges. Next time when you eat orange, take the orange seed out from it and squeeze it. You can see small nodule like structure. Imagine there's an orange seed, squeeze it, you can see them small nodule, small rounded structure in it. That's of course embryo. Plenty of embryo you can see inside them, and that's an example for the polyembryony. With this I am winding up the chapter 2. Hope you have understood it. If you have any queries regarding that, please feel free to ask me. Thank you.